Nice. Lovely.
She's a creature. She's a creature of the night.
She's a creature of the
night.
Backup audio. Going to record backup audio just in case.
Okay.
Because we know how things tend to go to shit. Right. There we go.
See you're in an optimistic mood today, Gory. Because we're now
struggling.
Everything is terrible.
No, we've got it down
hungover.
now.
Why? So you're not hungover? Oh,
No,
how the
not
tables
on.
have. Oh, how them tables has turned.
Love that picture you just sent in the WhatsApp group.
What is it? Is it tits? It's always tits, guys.
Yeah,
People
it's like
obsessed
the
around
microphone
tits.
just like pointed at her cleavage.
Apples and
Right,
tits, Max.
This
and
is how we're
tits.
going to do the podcast today. Look, you ready? So anyway, how have you guys been?
Welcome.
Great. What about you?
Welcome to the Tit podcast.
Let's see.
Oh, well, now we've got...
My wife just brought me some ice cream. I was about to be like, who's fucking knocking on the door? And then she just popped an ice cream through and I was like,
Oh.
She's so wonderful.
I love my wife.
It is very, very hot today, so we're all sweating.
Mm-hmm.
And also...
Especially as English people. We're not used to this.
we don't know what this
do we
is.
do? Oh, God. But that's the thing, because England's so cold most of the time. Nowhere has aircon. And then the fans are just blowing around hot air. What did you do, Gory? Why are you hungover?
I was just at a friend's barbecue yesterday, so not only was I drinking a lot of beer and like this random punch, like people just kept on pouring in random other drinks into this
Urine.
punch. Yeah, probably
Beer.
piss in there at some point.
Beer. I was in a library all day yesterday. Your guys' Saturdays were so much better than mine. I spent the day writing about what we'll be talking about today, actually.
Oh,
About Roe v. Wade.
Mm.
Looking at how we've got here, and thinking about what to do going forward. But that's the bit that I need to finish. And I think feels like the hardest bit to write as well. Because in regard to how we got here, there's so much to read, but like what to actually do now is...
So were you rustling your crisps in the library again? Were you rustling all your food and irritating all the other library goers?
No, so I'm at UCL. This was at Goldsmiths Library, where people don't seem to be as like, shut the fuck up. Don't seem to be as
tightly wound, because they're all doing
tightly
art degrees.
wound.
We're artists.
Hmm.
I would have fully been the woman in the library, like, will you stop rustling? I'm trying to write a philosophy essay. Yeah, just go outside and eat your fucking crisps.
I'm always writing bloody philosophy essays. I'm writing about Roe v. Wade from like a Foucault viewpoint, which is
What's Foucault?
intense. Foucault, the philosopher. So one of his theories was that of biopower and biopolitics, and the ways in which the government or the state tries to control us through biopower, which is controlling everything to do with life. So like life, death, illness, blah, 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 blah. So it fits in well with Roe v. Wade, like really well with Roe v. Wade. But he writes in a way, like he writes, I don't know, man, he's like a French philosopher. He writes in like quite complicated syntax, and it's, I don't know, his ideas aren't necessarily all fleshed out either. So I find it quite difficult to apply what he's saying fully to modern day circumstance, because often I don't know what the fuck he's saying. But
that was my problem
progress.
when I was that was my problem when I was reading philosophy, because it'd all been like translated from like, I don't know, 1500s Latin text.
Well, he died in like the 70s or 80s, so it's not even that long ago.
Well,
But it's just like, very like flowery. Just just say what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but I just could, like, literally sometimes I'd be like, I cannot read this sentence doesn't make any fucking sense. I can't read this shit.
Yeah. But like what are you saying?
I know.
It's really difficult.
And everybody who'd come from private school seemed to like understand what that, but they, or at least they knew, I don't know, there's some sort of rite of passage that they just had learned the basics at that school, so they didn't know. I don't know. Either way.
It feels very gatekeepery. That's how I feel. I feel as though like the education system in the UK, especially like elite universities, or maybe it's just all universities, I don't know.
No, it's elite universities.
There and it's it feels like they are the gatekeepers of knowledge, because the ways in which things are written are so unnecessarily complicated.
Ridiculous.
And I feel like it's I feel like it's to keep certain people out.
You think?
It keeps like I feel that way, like it's like it feels like it's to maintain this esoteric knowledge that the highly educated are able to access, because if you are not educated in that way, then you don't know what they're on about. So I feel like it's to keep people out personally. And also it's also to be like, look how smart we are. Do you know what I mean?
That's kind of what I try and do, like a bit on YouTube, is like try and take sort of some really complex issues and just sort of go, look, there is like a easy way to talk about this kind of stuff without it, you know, being all like that. Like, yes, these super educated people like talking in jargon. We can actually talk about this in a sort of like normal way. That's kind of what I try and do on YouTube, sort of like convey messages in an easy to understand way, because they're not too complicated to understand. You're right. It's just like the language and the medium that you use. There needs to be a sort of like,
it's a bit wanky.
Middleman. Yeah, there needs to be a sort of like middleman there that kind of knows how to communicate. Yeah.
Also, if you want to be discussing philosophy, and some like philosophical concepts can be quite difficult, you know, you get in your head around this weird like way of thinking. You want to be using the most simple, most efficient form of communication, surely.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, well,
I think that's so. Like half of the skill is like being able to communicate your ideas to
in a simple and efficient way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's something that they encourage us to do at uni when we're writing essays. They say not to use jargon. And like
wanky terminology.
Yeah. And we've had essays where we've been told, write this like you're explaining it to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, who doesn't know what the subject matter is, who doesn't understand it. And then also that shows that you really know what you're talking about as well, if you're able to break it down in simplistic terms.
Yeah. One of my favorite memories is one of like my memories, I'd never told you about this, like when because I went to King's College London to do philosophy. Did I tell you about when I went? There was a guy there who was really little. He was a lot shorter than me, and he was like, "Oh, shall we go for a cup of tea?" So I went to Costa and had a cup of tea. He had like hair like, what's the boy who sings "We're walking in the air"?
From the Snowman.
Oh,
yeah, like a little like an 1800s child,
a little Welsh boy,
Victorian boy, sort of strange posh boy hair. Yeah,
and
tiny little Victorian child boy.
I know. Bear in mind, so I'd come from Grantham College. It was an enormous culture shock, let's put it that way. But his opening gambit was, so having a cup of tea, and his opening gambit was, I think Occam's razor is a fallacy.
I think what is a fallacy?
Occam's razor.
But let me guess what Occam's, I think I know what it is. It means like the simplest explanation is always the correct one.
No, yeah, like the most simple explanation is usually the correct one.
Yeah.
I think Occam's razor is a fallacy. I was like, not even had a sip of my tea yet, love.
Yeah.
But can we start off with that haircut? Great. What's going on?
See, he wanted to start a discussion about he thinks that's Occam's razor is bullshit, basically.
It's not Corey, it's not bullshit, it's a fallacy.
A fallacy.
It's a fallacy. But and I think like at that time I was like nervy and not really sure of myself, and I was surrounded by all these like posh people from Eton and
it's a very middle class thing, isn't it, to like flex how intelligent you are. So he probably thought that was a pretty
I guess he just thought like
to a convo. And intelligence is attractive, but you didn't start a fucking conversation like that, pal.
But I mean, I just think it wasn't even that. I think it was just such a culture shock I mean, I was used to people like, all right, yeah, in it though, yeah, that sort of thing. That's like the level of, that's hard to explain. I just never.
No, you don't want to start off with that.
That's not how you start a conversation.
You could get into that maybe.
Chill out, mate.
No.
But it's almost like I knew what Occam's razor was. Fallacy, yeah, I knew it. I could, like, now I could, I'm sure I'd just like really like go at it in a discussion, but I don't know. It was just such a culture shock to get there, having been surrounded by people at Grantham College who just wouldn't know what Occam's razor was, wouldn't know what fallacy meant, wouldn't know any of that, and then to get there and be like, okay, and then like, and because I was real anxious, and I think just over time I felt different to these people that had come from this background, almost like they had this. I just think it's like an inbred sense of entitlement, not necessarily entitlement, but no self-questioning, no self-doubt, just
yes. And I think as well, like coming from like Grantham or any sort of, I don't know, like normal setting, working class setting, because that was my experience as well throughout my education. Like you instantly feel like inferior because, like you say, these people are so self-assured, and because I don't know, like they've never had reason to doubt themselves.
No.
Whereas, say, like my experience coming from the care system and then going to the grammar school that I went to, that was like huge, because for me it was like, number one, it was me and only one girl that were Black in the whole year, both working class backgrounds. The majority were white, middle class, and it was just like not my world. So and also like going in from the care system, I had this degree of shame as well surrounding that, and I felt like I couldn't be honest about that, so I would lie about my background. I'd be like, my mum's a lawyer, my dad's this. Like, no, they're very much both on benefits, so or like not even on, but do you know what I mean? Just
one's in prison.
Yeah. So so yeah, that was really difficult, and I carried that with me for a long time.
I wish somebody had said to me when I was younger, own it, don't give a fuck. They're not more clever than you.
Yeah.
Take them to task.
That's exactly what I've learned from like really looking into the people with like PhDs who go around on podcasts, like what I was talking about in my most recent video. Like they look like they've even got like full on qualifications, but I can still tell that a lot of the time they're talking shit, and they're only talking about, you know, things that back up what they already think. They're not truly looking at anything through a completely neutral perspective at all, which is what they like to portray. But what they're actually doing is really only putting any emphasis on this idea that they want to portray that they already believe, like women always cheat on men, or whatever the hell that they want to put across, and they can make it sound like it's you know, an educated opinion, when really, if you look into like the studies that they base their shit on, it's all just like there's plenty of other scholars out there that have gone, hey, this is bullshit and this is why. And
this is the thing, like, that people need to remember when they're listening to people like this, is that if you have a really biased opinion, a misogynistic opinion, racist opinion, or whatever, you will always be able to find something out there that backs it up. Do you know what I mean? But that isn't being critical. That doesn't mean that you're right. You're only looking.
Look what being
you're saying then.
Yeah, look what being a lawyer is, or what being a lawyer can be. You take that position and you find a way to prove it. You find a way to convince people that that is the position.
Yeah.
Anybody, you know, you really like, and there's not enough people nowadays who really want to look at both sides and really consider the nuance of something before making a decision.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd say that probably most people are guilty of that or guilty of that at some point.
Like,
Even
literally everybody is biased.
Like us,
it's like it's impossible to not be biased as a human being. Like we love stories, we love narratives, and we tell ourselves a story, and we will just naturally put more emphasis on the things that back up our perceived narratives. That's just the way that our brains work, because we like to make connections between things.
Yeah.
If you're going to state something as fact, you need to look at both sides, which a lot of these people, I think I'm talking about like the highly misogynistic, like incel red pill culture. It's not really looking at, it's not trying to form. I mean, a lot of people argue that like I'm doing the same thing, which I think you could argue that I am only looking for things that back up my theory. But what I'm trying to do with my video is provide the completely opposite like narrative, which is also very, very credible. But like their narrative is what we should do is to make everyone happy again, regress into a society which basically ends up in extremism and Gilead. Whereas my narrative is, hey, why don't we work on this a bit more to try and make everybody happy and have everybody be a bit more equal? I think that would also work. Yeah. And also, Georgie, let's remember, when we're talking about these subjects, the thing that you do have over them is the fact that you are a woman and you hang out with women and you know what it's like to be a woman. These are men commenting on what women are like, even though they probably they hate them. Yeah. And so, do you know what I mean? So, yeah,
but also like I talk to men as well. Like, I've got so many.
I do occasionally,
and there's like so many men in my life that are just like nothing like the men that they describe either. It's like it's not only women; they also put men in this completely like just one box where they're all the same. And it's like, no, they're not. Like, try talking to people, all people. You know, there's people that don't identify as either gender, which is also great. And it's like, you know, just talk to people in real life, please. And they're just sort of like so online, these people. They just don't see the world as it is anymore.
That's something that I find really interesting about them as well. It's like, I don't know, like it's just not, there doesn't seem to be like a level of like normal human interactions. They're like, we understand people because we've read all the stats about people. We know all the statistics. We don't speak to people in person, of course, but we know the stats, and so we know. Do you know what I mean? It's so strange.
Anyway, shall we get onto some talking points that we actually planned? I
know that. Yeah, okay, you go. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying.
So anyway, you go. Sorry.
So I've been like reading quite a lot about it with regard to Roe v. Wade, because like for one, I was trying to understand why this is even happening, and then I was looking at how they've been able to do it, which it just blows my mind. So I was reading that. So obviously, it's been part of the law. It's been a constitutional right. They're not strictly written as one of the constitutions for the past 50 years. And I was like, how? And so what I learned was the Ninth Amendment says that the Constitution is not, or the Bill of Rights, this is not an exhaustive list of people's rights. And it says there are, I think the word is unenumerated rights, which means, like I said, there are other rights that people have that aren't listed here, and those rights belong to the people. Okay, so through that Ninth Amendment, people have obtained the right to privacy, which has led to the right to marry the same sex, the right to use contraception, because it's what you do, like, you know, for yourself, to yourself, with your partner, whatever. And also it's led to them being able to have legal abortions, because that's my business. So now what this Supreme Court did, they said, well, there's actually, the Constitution doesn't actually say anything specific about abortions. And what they've done is they've really just ignored that Ninth Amendment, or how they worded it. Is they said, with regard to unenumerated rights, they need to be rooted in our history and our traditions. And so that's how they've got around it.
And so they want
dark.
It needs to be determined at state level, is what they're saying, knowing full well that there are going to be states that turn around and ban it immediately.
Well, that's the whole intention, of course.
Oh,
so, like, already trigger laws have made it instantly illegal in some states. But it's just so. I just find the whole thing so horrifying.
Yeah.
And also, I feel as though people aren't angry enough about this. Personally, I'm so angry because it's such an attack on women. It is such an attack on human rights. And also what I found is when I've spoken to people about this, a few people have been like, oh, you know, like America's just so crazy. I'm like, bitch, have you seen our government? Our government's fucking crazy too.
You seen Boris?
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're crazy. This is the same government that were like, immigrants, we're gonna send them to Rwanda. Like, this is the same government that when Sarah Everard was murdered and people were rightfully protesting, what they said was, okay, cool, yeah, rather than deal with that properly, what we're going to do is slip in a bill whereby we actually minimize people's right to protest. Are you fucking mental? And also, this is something I feel like needs to be discussed as well, is like in UK law, we have access to safe legal abortions. However, it is not a legal right that we have. You can still be criminalized but it is a legal right, but it's not like
it's not like a constitutional right.
So basically, so with UK law, we have access to safe legal abortions. However, in order to have one, it has to be signed off by 2 doctors. Okay. Now, if you are a woman or a person who can get pregnant, who wants to have an abortion, and maybe you're not able to go to the doctor to get it signed off, sometimes what people have done is you can get pills, whatever, ordered online. Maybe you're living with a possessive partner, or you're in some sort of difficult position which does not allow you to go out to doctors. So, but if you go and you get some dodgy pills online and have an abortion, you can go to jail for that in the UK. So it's not decriminalized. And I feel like that's something that there have been some past MPs who are anti-abortion who've tried to use that little loophole to suppress our rights to abortion.
What crime would you be breaking if you ordered a pill?
I'm not sure, because I don't know, because legally it has to be signed off by 2 doctors.
I mean, that isn't my experience. I mean, my experience was not that. I mean, maybe in the background, but I had
maybe in the background.
And I never had to see a doctor.
Yeah.
How did you get your pills?
Well, I had them in the hospital, but I didn't sit down with a doctor. I sat down with
hospital, so you're in
but at the time, because at the time I was going through the options with my mum and stuff, and we were discussing it, and I could have ordered privately the pills online. It would have been several £100, and I presume that would have been still by a doctor. It would have been like I would have had to have them prescribed, but I could have gone through an online private process had I chosen to. So I mean, that may be the law, but the reality of what's happening now isn't that.
Yeah, but what we need to understand is, because the law is the way it is, it needs to be a constitutional thing. It needs, because we've seen what's happened in America. We need MPs who are coming forward and saying, we want this written into legislation. So, and this is what people have been, since what happened in America's happened, people in the UK have been asking for that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
They've been denying it.
They want it to be in a Bill of Rights.
Exactly. So now Dominic Raab is saying, fuck the human rights agreement that we're part of, along with many other European countries. We're going to bring out our own Bill of Rights. And so what people have been calling for is, okay, we want this written into the Bill of Rights so that this is protected for us, because we don't want that shit to happen to us. And they've been refusing it. Like, so people need to be vigilant, because this government is fucking crazy.
I'm trying to, because I know I read something briefly about that, about why they, I can't remember what his argument was. Why did they say they were, that he did have an argument for it?
Was it I hate women and poor people?
No, it was
colour?
much more carefully worded than that. Yeah.
Was it I hate the people that would be most affected by this?
No, it was a
Was it that
legal
I'm a racist,
reason.
misogynist? Was that it?
Let's see if I can find it. Keep talking and I'll see if I can find it. Because I did think it was.
But yeah, that's scary. I didn't know any of that. Like how much it could.
But we knew that
happen here.
Yeah. Well, we knew that our human rights came from being part of the European Union, and that we could, so previously I knew that as soon as we were out, that could be attacked and go.
Yeah, I remember like this being discussed, and people were like, our human rights are going to get rid of our human rights, and I was like, no, that's crazy, and it's fucking happened. My mind is blown.
Yeah. I think like in general though, the UK is much more pro-choice than America, which kind of gives me a bit of hope that they won't do it. I think in the UK it's 90% pro-choice, whereas in America I think they're about 50-60% pro-choice over there.
Yeah.
Well, I what was I listening to the other day? I can't remember. It was one of the like top shows in America. I can't remember his name, but anyway, he was saying that actually America is 70% pro-choice, but I've
seen different numbers, but yeah, I've heard 70 as well. Yeah,
but this isn't. But it isn't. The justices are not reflective of America as a whole. No. They were. It was because Brett Kavanaugh. Anyway, it was him being slotted in by Trump that.
Well, it was 3 of them that he slotted
and he
in.
Clearly cares about women's rights, Brett Kavanaugh. Yeah. I mean, champion.
It wasn't, but remember, he didn't just slot in Brett. He slotted in Amy Barrett as well, and Neil Guraj. I don't know how you say his surname, but he slotted in 3 clearly conservative, anti-abortion justices.
Yeah, I mean, but I think Brett especially sticks out to me because wasn't he the one who was alleged to have assaulted?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Somebody?
Yeah. He's got credible allegations against him, but obviously most people thought that it was a woman trying to get attention.
Of course, must have been
that's what the president was saying at the time as well. Do you remember? Because she came forward a few, like however many years later.
Yeah,
and Trump was like, "Well, why would
clearly
you say
because so much time has passed? That must mean it's not true." Because
I mean, I can imagine that whole experience for her was great. I'm sure she was really pleased she came forward.
She's
So it was is it Trevor Noah on the Daily Show?
Yeah.
Yep. So he made a really interesting point. So he's the one that said 70%. And it was really nice actually to hear a man stand up and because I want to hear more men. I want to hear more anger from men.
Same.
And he was saying, okay, I'll support this law in anti-abortion on one I don't have words today. Condition, there we go. That it's retrospective. And it means that any Republican who has assisted in getting his mistress an abortion or a family member or anything like that will go to jail. And they have to be open and it has to all be looked into and come out openly in the press, and that has to be included.
I
can't imagine they'd be signing up for that because this is the problem. I mean, I can't see that there's anything in the press, but do we really think that Trump with his nasty willy and pussy grabbing and whatever hasn't got people pregnant along the way? I just don't buy that he hasn't.
Yeah, well, yeah. So my this understanding of it is like the reason that it's happening is because the Republican Party is so like some of its main grassroots supporters are far right Christians. And this is not an attack on religion because these are people who use Christianity as a guise, you know, for their horrendous viewpoints that do not seem very godly at all. And so like so the Christian right have been vying for abortion to be made illegal for a long time, and this has been an issue. It's like, like a single issue voters. This has been like something that's unified them, and for unifying it, it's made them really powerful. And because because America, it's kind of like the UK, where you've got like two main opponents or whatever, Democrats and Republicans. So if you've got all these people backing like one party, then that's a lot of power. There's no one really to challenge them. And also so
I mean, I don't pretend to understand the ins and outs and the complexities of the American system. All I know is that even when your party is in power, you don't. Especially if you're a Democrat, it seems you don't. I mean, I can remember watching a program about Obama when he was trying to get his Obamacare through, and how many, even though he was the president and his party was in, there's the difficulties in getting that through because of the way their system works. Well,
Obama fucked this up for us as well, to be honest with you. So part of one of the things that he campaigned on was to do with abortions, and I guess like making it a constitutional right. I'm not quite sure. And he said that he would do that, and then he got into power, and when he was asked, are you gonna do this thing that you promised you would do, he said that there were bigger issues to deal with.
Yeah, he said it was not a priority right now.
Yeah, he said it wasn't a priority. So he actually could have.
Yeah.
I want to say he could have stopped this from happening, but maybe he couldn't, because he's had the Republicans like throwing everything.
I don't understand. Right. So what was he going to do? It was already a constitutional right. So what else could they have done?
I don't know.
They can codify it.
Codify it. Yeah.
Right.
Which I don't fully understand.
I don't fully understand it either, but basically he could have stopped it happening by codifying it, is what I understand.
But then, because of how their system works, would he have even been able to do that? I don't.
Yeah. And if people are hell-bent on reversing something,
he still went back on it.
And if people are hell-bent on reversing something, I mean, they could have maybe added in an extra layer of difficulty for them, but would they have found a way anyway? I don't know. I think it's just despicable.
I had a question from a patron of mine that I said that I would pose to both of you on here. They said, what would you say to people who say, like, if you don't want to get pregnant, just don't have sex? What would you say to the people who say that?
If you don't want to get pregnant, just don't have sex.
Yeah, so basically they're saying, like, if you got pregnant, it was your fault for having sex. You could just not have sex if you don't want to get pregnant. Like,
no, but I want to have sex.
Yeah.
Why should I not?
Well, that's strange. That's not even an argument.
Well, that is what like
people try and
say.
Run.
Yeah.
Just don't have sex. Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to have sex. I want to have sex, and if there is something goes wrong, then I want the opportunity to not have to have a child, and I don't think that's asking too much, frankly.
No.
And why don't we just ask?
That's a stupid suggestion.
Amy, people are running that argument all the time.
Well, why the fuck do anything? Oh, I don't know. Like, so you might, I don't know, hurt yourself like doing a sport. Well, if you don't want to possibly break a limb,
yeah. Why drive anywhere if you could die while you're driving there?
Oh well, if you could end up in a car crash, so just don't drive. What a fucking stupid argument.
Well, yeah. So what we're weighing up here, I guess, then is a woman's right to engage in something pleasurable, versus the risk that she might have to evacuate a cluster of cells from her body, and the rights of that cluster of cells. Well, I want to have sex.
Yeah. It is just a cluster of cells, though. The way I see it is like, let's go with the option that causes the least amount of pain for all people involved in, like, even if you think that little cluster of cells is a person, you're not causing it any pain by killing it. I'm sorry, you're not, but you are causing pain to the woman that you're forcing to give birth to that little cluster of cells.
I'm not pro-abortion. I wish I hadn't got into a situation where I had one. I have had an abortion.
Nobody wants to have an abortion, but like,
I'm pro-abortion. What do you mean you're not pro-abortion?
No, I'm not. No, it's not that. I'm pro a woman's right to have an abortion.
Yeah.
But what I'm not saying, let's all get abortions. Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's what a lot of them. No, I think that's what a lot of them think. They think that women think they can go around being like promiscuous as they want because they can just go and get an abortion, and then they don't have to worry about it. Whereas in reality, no woman wants to go through like the amount of hormones that pump through your body when you like get pregnant and you have to go through the abortion process.
I'll talk you through it.
Talk us through it.
It is a horrendous process. It's awful.
You know, these people who like slut shaming women for having abortions. What is their stance, do you know, on vasectomies?
Well, I think that should be normalized. Like, you can reverse them, can't you? Like, and I also just think other types of male contraception need to be researched more and need to be pushed out into the market and very much normalized. I watched a whole video about it recently, which is really good. I'll send it to you. But male contraception definitely needs to be a thing.
Oh yeah, because I can you hear me?
Yeah.
So the onus is all on us, of course. Nobody's saying, well, why don't men just not have sex? Or here's my answer to that question. Yeah, if you don't like the risk that somebody may have an abortion, then you don't put yourself in that position, whether you be a man or a woman. And keep your fucking mitts off my life, because I am perfectly capable of making my own moral, ethical and intellectual judgments.
No, Charlie, you're not, because what you need is the state to tell you what to do with your body. That's what you need. Look at our current Prime Minister. The man has got 5 women pregnant whilst being married to another woman.
Yeah, every time he's got like divorced, doesn't he? Like, it's because he's got somebody else pregnant.
Yeah. And has had the audacity to call single mothers illegitimate and the children and the offspring of single mothers, ill-raised, whatever.
Yeah.
So you can go fuck yourself if you think that you're going to make decisions, moral and ethical decisions about my life. Let's look at the way that the president who brought these justices into the Supreme Court. Has he gone around practicing abstinence and respecting women?
Absolutely not. Most likely.
Absolutely not.
But anyway, you were going to tell us about your abortion.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it. Okay, so had you asked me in my 20s whether I'd ever have an abortion, I'd have said no. Because you
didn't think you'd be able to go through with it.
I thought I was really, really, really careful,
and
I'd always been so careful.
Yeah.
Actually, as we've discussed, I was quite tightly wound, so I just thought I'd never get myself into that situation. And it wasn't. Yeah, same, to be honest. I'm surprised it's this way round, but anyway. Anyway, so. And also, I think probably I would have thought that maybe I'd have like a moral qualm about doing it. But I think by the time it came around, how old was I? I don't know, maybe like 31, something like that. I can't remember. By that point, I think I'd realised life is pretty tough. You have to make these difficult decisions. It's not like we live in a world where we're all protecting the rights of people all the time and babies are born and they're all protected and they have these great lives and they don't live in poverty and they don't get treated badly and whatever. That isn't life. Life
That's
can
why
be
it's
shit.
such bullshit that the argument is, oh wait, we're pro-life. Okay. Says the country that doesn't give maternity pay. Says the country that these voters who don't, like Republican voters who don't want universal health care,
literally,
we're pro-life. We want everyone to keep their guns, but we're pro-life.
From a country that's synonymous with the High School Massacre. Oh,
Do you know
yeah,
what I
you care
mean?
about children.
Yeah.
So the
Fuck
president
off.
like Trump, who slotted in these justices so that he could do God's work and prevent abortions, but simultaneously talks about how irritating pregnancy is for business, which of course is more important than people. I mean, what narrative are you running? Can you pick one? But anyway, I digress. So yeah, when I was younger, I just didn't think, like, I'd had friends have abortions, and I just thought, that isn't me. I'm too careful, whatever. So not long after I'd split from my daughter's dad, I sort of started chatting a little bit with a guy who I had a big crush on when I was 19, and I really did quite like him at the time. God knows why now. But he was a real schmoozer, like, and really, like, I think he racks up a lot of notch posts with women. Yeah, I know, it's grim, mate, it's grim. But do you know, I just was really, really, really horny. I just was really, really horny. So he'd got back in touch. He helped me move house. So he'd been like moving stuff all day, and then I just went back to his, and he ordered pizza and was like, "We'll just hang out a bit." And don't know.
Pizza, so.
Pizza. Let me get my press out. Yeah, pizza.
Yeah.
And like
crust.
the crust. And like he's like, I had changed so much between the time at which we'd sort of had a little thing. No, it'd been like over 10 years. I was a completely different person. Like, so I wasn't interested in having a relationship with him. But you know, he'd helped me move house, and I was horny. I wanted to have sex. So I did. Now, where I went wrong was, we were in his house having pizza and realized he didn't have any condoms. And I said, "You need to go and get some condoms. You need to go and get some." But then he just pushed on anyway, and I didn't stop him. That was very silly of me. I do get that. But I did it. So what am I going to do? So what now? I have to, you know, but so we did a research.
He's certainly half to blame there for pushing on. Like,
well, yeah, he pushed on. I mean, but the worst thing is, because I knew he had 2 children with a mum, and that he didn't see them, and I thought his reasons for not seeing them were a bit spurious. But he was saying that she wouldn't let him see them, and he didn't have the money to go to court and whatever. But after that, I found out I think he's actually got children with other women in town, and God knows how many abortions he's created.
Man about 10.
But who's on his back?
Yeah.
What? Because he can't like deliver them out of his asshole. So therefore, there's no obligation on him to stop his behavior. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, I didn't use a condom. That was silly. I went and got the morning after pill, and it was during COVID. So there wasn't, and I think there was some issue with like the pharmacist or whatever. So I couldn't even get it like an NHS one. I had to pay extra for it. It was quite expensive. And because of my weight, I had to buy 2, because there's like a borderline if you weigh a certain amount. So I had to buy 2. So it wasn't cheap, and I took them.
They're like 30 quid each or something, aren't they?
Yeah, it was about 60 quid.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
God.
So
is there like a sort of a percentage chance of it working with the morning after pill?
Yeah,
I think high if it's the day after.
It wasn't the day after.
Right, okay.
I think it might have been the second day.
Yeah.
But even so, you know, but literally, like, I'd just moved house. My house I could barely get into it. Like, my life was in chaos at the time. So yeah. Can
you still, you know, like at our age, do we have free access to them from sexual health clinics?
I don't know.
Or do we have to buy them?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I don't think, because like, I don't know. I think it's quite difficult, because I know I've
got one before, but I can't even remember if I paid for it or not. It was so long ago.
I've had them for free.
I had it for free when I was a student.
Right.
But not now. Not that much. I mean, there might be a way, but probably the nuance of finding that way and getting it within that short window, I imagine it would be quite difficult.
Because I've rung me up though. When I took the morning after pill though, it like fucked up my hormones. I was like in tears the next day. I was like, I'm never doing this again.
It does all of it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. yeah, and it can make you like sick and stuff, but whatever. So I've had the morning after pill a couple of times, but I've rung my local GP before to ask for it, and they're like, oh yeah, you can't get it through your GP. Oh, good. All right then. Well, the NHS can just...
Isn't it healthcare? I mean,
I guess I don't know if it's optional for GPs, but my GP is not doing it, which is most unhelpful. I'm sure there's something locally that I could have gone to, but do you know what I mean? I work, I've got a child, I'm fucking busy. Like, what I'm going to do, just sack off this urgent case I've got and trot on to sit in this walk-in whatever for how long?
And also, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think even if there are other options, surely you would think that the person that provides your healthcare, your GP, they should be.
I think the GP should provide it, and I think they should provide it even just from like a, you know, the NHS is going to cost a lot more for the NHS to provide an abortion or to provide, you know, for you actually having the child. So surely they should just have that available to prevent it getting any further, and it should be just as easy as that. You call your GP and you get it. I think it should be.
Well, during the pandemic, because obviously people couldn't go and see their GPs in person, what they were doing is, this is in the UK, people could call up. I don't know who you called though, to be honest with you, but you could call up and you could get the pills that you take at home, because in the first trimester of being pregnant, you don't need an ultrasound to have an abortion. And so they created the system where you could call up and do it at home, basically. Have the pills at home. And I think throughout the pandemic, there were 150,000 people that had abortions, so a pretty high number, like through this method. And pro-abortion movements and like gynecologists and whoever have said that they should keep this system. But I think in August, our government is reversing it and putting it back to pre-pandemic rules.
Well, the pandemic was ongoing when I had an abortion. So I took a pregnancy test just to be like, just to rule it out, really, because I've always been like a bit, like I say, careful. I couldn't believe it when it came up.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was horrified.
How do you feel about it now?
I feel it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider at the time, like, not aborting?
Yeah, because I did. You know, like, one of the reasons that it didn't work with Violet's dad was because I wanted another child.
Yeah.
But let me talk you through like my decision-making process at the time. This guy, as I subsequently found out, I think he is quite violent. He had kids with women he didn't see. There's a reason he wasn't seeing his other kids. So I could pretty much have guaranteed either one, that I would be linking myself to a man who had less than desirable characteristics. Two, I'd be bringing you know, I know I'm separated from Violet's dad, but she has a great relationship with her dad. That's important. So I would be immediately bringing a child into a fatherless environment, which I think a child can be perfectly happy, but it certainly was a consideration. So I was like studying for my exams at the time as well. So I can remember when I went in to have the first pill, I had revision notes with me, revising for an exam. So yeah, I was studying to do those as well. Like that has been 6 years of, and that's not including my initial degree. That's just converting to the career that I'm doing now. That's been 6 years in the making. So it would have, you know, I was in the process of doing a training contract to qualify. That would have cajoled that. I had a boss at the time who just I was under insane pressure at work. It was quite disgusting. Like he could have seen me carried out on a stretcher and he'd been like, we're going to need to have a chat about your KPIs because you need to just be billing more money. So I was under insane pressure from work. Like I was studying, I was on my own with one child anyway. So I put all this effort into building up, you know, what could have been, you know, a career for me. And what? So if I'd had two kids, trust me, it's hard enough with one. But another one on my own.
Yeah, well, the majority of women who have abortions already have children.
Yeah,
as well.
So
and that's a big factor. that plays into it, not being able to afford another kid.
It's expensive. And that's the other thing. Like, I'd have put all this money and effort into being able to have a career for myself and provide a good lifestyle for my daughter and me, as you know, and I'd have had to just stop then. I'd have had to stop. I wouldn't have had the income to be able to get a mortgage. We wouldn't be in the house that we're in now. I wouldn't have necessarily got the job that I'm in now.
Well, what they're saying a lot in America, these Christian pro-life people,
these far right,
they're saying that all you have to do is give birth and then we'll adopt your baby. Yeah. So basically they're saying all we're forcing you to do is be pregnant for 9 months. But I guess you're the only person here who's been pregnant for 9 months. So maybe you could sort of talk a little bit to us like what they're actually asking these women to go through. And then
can I just say something about this?
Yeah.
As well. So with regard to like the demographic of people that are having abortion, this is something that you need to remember, is like usually people that are close to the poverty line or below the poverty line. There's a much higher rate of Black women having abortions. You know, there's that link with poverty there. A higher rate of Hispanic women having them as well in America. So this is not like, so this is, I feel, a racialized attack because those are the people that will be the most affected. And so what's going to happen? What will happen is women that have the means, they will go to other states and they'll have abortions if they need to. But like these poor, like Black and brown women and white women as well, they will be driven further into poverty and they will be kept there. So when these people are saying, we'll adopt your babies, no, we'll adopt the right babies. What the Black and brown babies, I doubt they'll want, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And there's also like so many kids up for adoption, but they're older kids. Like all they want is the fresh little babies.
Yeah.
Like they don't care about the well-being of kids.
Children.
They want fresh little babies that they can indoctrinate into their religion or whatever.
Like in our care system, you can pretty much guarantee that if a child is over 3 or 4, they're not going to be adopted. That's long-term foster care by and large.
Most of them are like over, I think I looked into this, most of them are over 9 years old in America that need adopting. Like the little babies, they're all right, they'll get taken. That's
why I think it's racialized as well, because I don't know.
Well, it's poverty, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
and there's a lot of overlap.
And also these are far right people, you know, call themselves Christians or whatever, but the far right, but they hate Black people, brown people. And I was going to say they hate poor people, but I think a lot of them are poor. So, but anyway, that's a whole other thing as well.
Yeah, that is a whole other kind of worms, isn't it? I mean, so being pregnant, I didn't have the worst experience that's I know that's people who around me have had when they've been pregnant. I know that some people it's been so debilitating, they've just been sick and ill, and it can affect like so many things. It can do like
morning sickness can get so bad, can't it?
I've known people who like I've had to just go off work, like it's just completely debilitating. They've just had to be in bed. It can affect your pelvis, so that your pelvis, you can't walk, and there's loads of things. And
like after you've given birth, like you can tear a lot giving birth, can't you? And don't you like you pee yourself for a while afterwards? So I hear you can.
I mean, I didn't, but look, childbirth.
Also the mortality rate. America has in the so-called developed world, America has the highest maternal mortality rate. So when they say, all you've got to do is fucking give birth and give it up for adoption, also you might die. But we'll ignore that.
That's in the small. That's in the small print.
But no, like it's crazy to expect women to go through 9 months of what could potentially be hell. Like
with the possibility of death at the end of it.
And it's not even a possibility of tearing. That's like pretty much guaranteed unless you're very lucky. So you can pretty much guarantee your vagina's going to tear into your asshole. And that's like I couldn't have sex for 6 months after I had Violet. Like it goes back if for most people, not for some people it's so horrific it never goes back. But yeah, you're going to tear, or you're going to have a cesarean and be cut open and have major surgery. And nothing prepared me for the pain of childbirth. Nothing. I mean, I think I was naive, utterly naive, because I can remember being like, well, I don't think it's going to be good, because it's going to be painful. But a lot of people do it,
Yeah.
But so many people do it. It can't be that bad. It is.
But like, at least you wanted your child, I can't imagine being forced to go through that.
Oh, the pain.
To like give away a kid at the end.
Like it.
Yeah.
And also,
the pain.
Being
the
forced
panic.
to do it. Yeah. Being forced to do it if maybe you've been raped.
Yeah.
By your fucking uncle.
Yeah.
Your dad.
Yeah.
Still got to have that baby. Like, I mean, the mindset is so
And like,
crazy.
also knowing that for the rest of your life, there is a child out there that's yours that you didn't want to have. Like, they can find you if they want, can't they?
And
like,
and the psychological damage. I mean, that's not something to take lightly. So yeah, but I mean, I can remember I used to love watching One Board Every Minute. I used to love it.
Yeah.
I could for maybe a year after giving birth, I just couldn't watch it. I can remember walking past a heavily pregnant woman and just been like, ugh. Like the panic, the sheer panic of being in that much pain and being completely trapped, and there's nothing you can do. You can't get out of it until you've delivered this baby. There is nothing you can do, and you're trying to haggle with the midwives to give you more painkillers, and they're like, well, we just need to slow it down because it could affect you, blah 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 blah. I know some people deal with childbirth better than I did, but I was literally like, it was just like, my mum had to keep going and getting me this like flannel, like a cold flannel. And by the end of it, I had this giant red flannel rash all over my face because I'd just been rubbing my face so hard because of the pain. And yeah, like, so then you push out this giant baby, you've got a cavern of a vagina, you've all torn down there, they stitch it up, it's disgusting, it's painful. So you're like, you're not sleeping because you've got this newborn. And oh God, I brought my daughter home from the hospital, and she just I was breastfeeding, but it took that long for my milk to come in that I just didn't sleep for 3 days. And then you've got this like throbbing vagina.
Yeah.
It's so painful. I remember sitting on frozen peas. It was just, and you're so vulnerable. Your hormones are all over the place. I've never felt so vulnerable. It's a massive undertaking, a huge undertaking as a woman to go through. You can also
slip into a psychosis as well, which is something that's not discussed enough at all. And I only learned this a couple of years ago. I saw this documentary about this woman, and she was perfectly happy, like perfectly healthy, had no mental health issues before. And then she had this baby, and she just slipped into a psychosis. She was in a car with her partner and her baby in the back, and she was just driving, and she just started to speed up down this road, and she was heading for a wall. She was going, I'm going to kill us, I'm going to take us, I'm going to take us. And I don't know what car it was, but there was some button whereby that he could press to stop, to like put the brakes on essentially, and so he managed to save them. And like pregnancy, like having a child can it can fuck you up physically and mentally. It can absolutely destroy you.
What's it called? Why can't I think of it?
It's postnatal depression, but this is psychosis, which I didn't even know could happen. Awful.
Yeah. There was there's a Louis Theroux documentary on it, wasn't there?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's just horrendous.
And then not just that, the physical, mental, whatever, but then once you've had a child, your life is utterly curtailed. What if you don't have? You could end up being, because especially if you're a single mother, if you don't have loads of friends and family who can help, it's just you and this child. It could be really, really lonely. Really lonely. It's hard work. Hard work, and that's never acknowledged, is it?
This is going to take a lot of women out of the workforce as well, or like really hold them back in their careers, which
and it's such hard work. Why should I be obliged to have to raise this child? I mean, I know they say just give it up for adoption. I mean, that's an easy up, but I don't want to have a child and give it up for adoption. If I have a child, I want to mother that child. I enjoy being a mother. But God, is it hard work?
I can imagine, like, if I was forced to give birth, like, I would feel at least some connection to that child that I gave birth to, even if I was giving it up for adoption. Absolutely.
If I had
horrible.
a child to full term, to the point where it was actually a child, I couldn't just give it away.
I don't know if I could. Like, it's crazy.
I just don't know, dear.
It fuck me up. And, like, also just, like, knowing that kid's out there, that would also fuck me up for the rest of my life.
Also, like, even if you are adopted into a good home, that can also potentially fuck you up. Like with my, shall I say? I won't say. But I've got a family member who's adopted, and I feel that they have always had a chip on their shoulder about the fact that they were adopted, even though they were adopted into a really good home by like really great family members who I love very much. This particular person, I think, has is quite aggressive towards women. And I think a big part of that is because they think, because we're told, like, your mum, you know, that's the person that wants you, like, nurtures you, loves you. And I don't think they've ever been able to get over the fact that their mum gave them up. So there's like mental health, there's, you know, mental issues that are tied to being adopted as well. So like just presenting it as this fix all option is insane. And this is the thing with the like anti-abortion movement, like that none of their arguments are rooted in fact. They're all just subjective opinions. Whereas I think as like the pro-abortion movement is, well, you know, it's going to affect people of women of color more, poor people. It's going to keep them in poverty. It's not going to make people stop getting abortions. It just means they're going to get dodgy ones. Blah blah blah.
Extra abortions.
There's all these facts, but there's no facts for the.
So we know statistically
other side
that if you ban abortion, women will die from backstreet abortions.
Yeah.
And that, like, as you say, Naomi, if some Republican's mistress wants to go and get one, then there's the money to do it, to get her out of the state or even out the country if needs be, to have it and then to come back. But there isn't that option for people living in poverty.
Yeah.
So yes,
also,
it just.
Yeah. So back to like the death thing as well. If you're black, and I know in the UK, you're 5 times more likely to die than any other race, and the rate's higher in America as well if you're black.
Yeah.
So
why would you? God, I mean, I had my mum with me and my daughter's dad when I gave birth. I can't imagine going through that on my own.
Yeah.
It would have been horrendous. It is so painful and so frightening.
Yeah. Awful. Yeah. My dad was there when I was born, but I think he was drunk. So okay. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. It's really difficult if you don't have a support system. Just awful. And then my mum left my dad with me when I was maybe like 2 years old and went to a women's shelter, you know, like, oh God, sorry, my phone keeps going off. Shut up.
No, I'm just checking mine as well because I'm having some fence panels delivered. And you guys are getting in the way of that. I'm just checking mine as well because I'm having some fence panels delivered. I actually need to go to the bank in a minute to get some cash for this guy.
Yeah, I need to go in like 10 minutes. Yeah, and also, people, let's not forget that now that they've come for abortion, they're going to come for LGBTQ rights as well. They're going to come for, like, what's Clarence Thomas said? We need to... Everything
except interracial marriage needs to be reversed.
Who said that?
Clarence.
What is he a Supreme Court guy?
Yeah, you know, the one who's black and
oh
likes...
my God, really?
So it's all right with interracial marriage because that might affect him. But everything else, chuck it all in.
All the stuff that's been, the rights that have been written because of the unenumerated rights that led to the right to privacy.
I have a conspiracy though that like this could be because they're worried about the plummeting birth rate in America because it's gone below 2.1 for American-born women.
Yeah, it's like 1.7 or something.
Yeah, which is less than the amount needed to replace the people, basically. But the population as a whole is not going down, meaning immigrants are coming in. So you'd only have a problem with that if you were basically, because the US is mostly white, you'd only have a problem with that if you were worried about the white race being basically replaced. And I have a conspiracy that this is a little bit of white supremacy. And they
quite possibly.
Huge.
And
well, of course it is.
And yeah, well, you can't say that they all argued from that viewpoint, but for certainly for some of them, like when I looked into my last video and like the way that they wanted to control women to sort of make sure that they were getting pregnant by the right people, i.e. the white people. I mean, that certainly makes me think that the ban on abortion comes from there. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, if you want the birth rate to go up, then put in some proper maternity pay.
Exactly.
Maybe some healthcare for children.
Everyone's stuck in this
allowing them
fucking
to be shot up in school.
Yeah, everyone's stuck in this system where they don't have enough time or resources to give birth anyway. So if you really wanted to get the birth rate back above 2.1, yeah, give people the resources to actually have children. Yeah, but no, I think this is like some white supremacist shit going on here. It's quite scary.
I don't even think that's like a conspiracy. I think like that's really clear, because of like what we were discussing about who it's going to affect the most. Like, they want baby, and like you were saying, there are kids here, but they're immigrant kids. They want kids, but they want the right kids being born. Yeah, and white is right. It's yeah. Yeah.
White is right.
White is right.
So yeah, it's horrible. And like Elon Musk has been tweeting about the birth rates, and he's like, oh, I'm helping to fix the problem because he's like had 6 or 7 kids now, and he's like, oh, I'm helping to I'm helping with the problem of the plummeting birth rate because he's having all of these kids.
I'll have 6 kids. That'll sort it.
Yeah.
Never mind what I could do for I don't know.
Yeah, he refuses to like
with all his money.
He refuses to like treat his employees as anything but slaves, and he's like, why aren't you giving birth? And it's like, because people like you are like working them to the bone. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Also, it's like presents women as incubators.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're good for. Like, our value depends on our ability to reproduce.
Yeah, they want us out of the workforce and they want us to be pumping out babies.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So do you want to know about the actual process of abortion? Because I know we're running out of time. So if you want me to talk you through that.
Yeah. But the pill version.
For me, I thought the whole process was really annoying. So I had to go, because it wasn't at my local hospital, so I had to drive to a further hospital. So I had to drive, bearing in mind, pregnancy, it made me so, my workload was massive anyway, but it made me I was first feeling sick and so tired. Like I just could not stop yawning. I was exhausted and it was like hot. It was during COVID, so we had to wear masks and it was just felt disgusting. Like, just so, because I don't know, I mean, obviously, I was going to say, do you know what it's like when you're pregnant and you feel sick all the time? No. Well, it's just like this underlying horrible sick feeling.
And then just hungover.
It's not quite the same. No, it's a weird sickness. It's just there all the time, like a niggle. It's like, oh, and for me anyway, it's much worse for other women, I know, and then it's just sheer exhaustion, not linked to anything that you're doing in life, but just utter exhaustion all the time. It was just awful. So then I have to drive like, it's nearly like an hour's drive to get to this hospital for an initial consultation. Then you've got to drive back for another day to go and have the first pill, go home. Then you have to drive back and go into hospital for a full day to have the second pill. So I think the first pill ends the pregnancy and the second pill like makes it come out of your body, and you basically start having mini contractions and it pushes it all out. But essentially what it is it's like quite intense period pains. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a patch on childbirth, but it's painful and it's very unpleasant. And yeah, so you're in a hospital room on your own and you've just got to you just start bleeding and there's a lot of blood. A lot just keeps coming out, and then they give you this little like cardboard round thing and you've got to just keep weeing in it, and then whatever or anything you do, like a wee or a poo, Thankfully, I didn't need to poo because I just do not need that trauma in my life. But you've got to pass to the nurse to get them to check it. So, yeah. So basically, and then you just like obviously having like chunks of blood and stuff all coming out, and you've got to like hand it over to this lady to check while you're just lying there in pain and whatever. So mine didn't actually like it. Oh, and you have to like, you're wearing this like big pad because, yeah.
How long did that all take then in total?
Pretty much a day. It was several hours of lying there, just waiting. And then you bleed for a long time after as well. But mine didn't come out into the pot. It just came out into the pad and I could see it.
Did it bother you seeing it? Were you just like, oh, okay, that's happened now?
Maybe a little, yeah. Maybe. I'll be honest with you. I still don't know that I've processed it entirely. I don't really like people like, how does it make you feel? And I'm like, I don't really know.
It's not something that you're like prepared to. It's not like necessarily discussed enough as well, so you're not prepared for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you react to an abortion? What's a normal reaction? That's something that they're saying as well in England now that this is happening with Roe v. Wade, is that we need to talk about it more,
and that's like that's the way. That's why I want to talk about it on here. Like, I'm not pleased it happened. I wish it hadn't happened, but it did. Those situations are not uncommon. Don't tell people not to go have sex because it's just not going to happen. Be reasonable. And I don't regret my decision.
Yeah, and thank God you were able to have it.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean I'm not a good mother. I am a good mother to my daughter, and I would like to have another child at some point if I met the right person and it was done within a loving relationship with somebody who would be supportive and a good father.
So before we log off, I
won't go out with you.
I'll try again later.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you both. So there's been a lot of discussion about this being an attack on women, but obviously it's not just women that can have children, or trans people that can have children, non-binary people. So do you feel like it's an attack on anyone who is able to incubate a child and reproduce, or do you feel like it feels like a concerted attack on women? Most
people that are pro-life, I don't think even accept that trans people exist, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think they'd acknowledge it. So it's probably an attack on both, really, but predominantly it's an attack on women's reproductive rights. And I mean, I don't want to get into the whole trans thing, but I mean, even somebody who identified as male and who was born male but had a woman's biology, their biology is still female biology. There's a difference between gender and biology, and I acknowledge that.
Gender and sex, yeah.
But like I said, I've not read around it enough to know the appropriate terminology. But it's still...
No, you're right, saying biology as well.
It's female biology. So I don't know. I don't know that we even give it any consideration. I think it's an attack.
That's what I think. I think it is an attack on everyone that can incubate and reproduce a child. But I think fundamentally, because these are fundamentalists that we're dealing with here, I think fundamentally it is an attack on women, because I think these are people who want to, I think they fear, like, I don't know, what they see as a world that's becoming more liberated. And I think they want to return to a time where women are mothers and women are not in the workplace in the same way that they are now. They want to return to that traditional nuclear family. So I think they're not even considering trans people and non-binary people.
No, I don't think it comes into that.
It doesn't. They want women to fit into those. Yeah, they want women to fit into those traditional gender roles. I think that's part of what they're trying to achieve here.
Yeah,
but
it's some heavy shit there, y'all. So I don't know. Like, I'm open to the fact that I might get criticised and whatever, but I don't care. It is what it is.
I don't think there's anything wrong. No.
Well, I mean, there's going to be people criticise me for having an abortion, but I don't.
I don't care. Yeah, no. Yeah. I enjoyed that. I'm glad that we got to talk about Roe v. Wade. I've been wanting to talk
I just
about
feel like if you do you, if you and that's one of the arguments from like the manosphere or from men who don't like, you know, women having an abortion because of the reproductive rights, is that women are the gatekeepers of men passing on their genetics or whatever. But they're not. How many women are you telling me that women don't want to have children in general?
They do. They just want the right, you know, circumstances to do it.
Women want to have children.
Yeah.
So you are the gatekeeper. Men, you are the gatekeeper. Shoot your load into a woman who you have formed a relationship with, who you want to have children with, who you know wants to have children with you.
Wow.
And if you
can't find one, then maybe that's your fault.
But it's not that, is it? It's ultimately you are the one who's choosing where you shoot you.
Kind of. But I'd argue, from my experience, I think that depending on the relationship that you're in, that women do have the final say and should have the final say. So, for instance, with my partner, we got into it was quite heated actually at the time for a while, a couple of years ago, because he was ready to have kids and I wasn't. I was going back to uni, blah, 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 blah. And that threw a spanner in the works. And he was like, I'm this age now. I wanted to have kids when I was this age, blah, blah, blah. But for me, my argument was, well, I'm the one that's carrying it. And also when we have kids, it's not going to be your career that's slowed down. It's not going to be you that's with the kid, I don't know, looking after it whilst I go off to work. And to be fair, like, he's a modern man and we would share the responsibility, and I know he will be an amazing dad, but it is the woman who's the most affected physically as well. And so my partner's white, and obviously, because I know the statistic that as a Black woman, I'm 5 times more likely to die than a white woman from childbirth. I'm like, do you know what? I'm sorry, but I actually do have the final say in this. Sorry, you're not the one who's going through that.
But it's not even just that, is it? Because I mean, what you're saying is in a relationship you get the final say, and of course, but what I'm talking about is if you don't want women to have abortions, or you then don't have sex with somebody where that might be a possibility. Women are the gate. You can't gatekeep something if
you're saying
there's nothing. It's down to you, men, where you put it.
But aren't you saying the same argument that those people said when they said, well, if you don't want an abortion, don't have sex?
Yeah, but I'm saying, if you are a man who doesn't want women to have an abortion, or you don't want your potential genetics and offspring aborted, then don't you shoot your load into a woman.
If you're pro-life, then you need to be anti-sex.
Or not anti-sex, but just be careful where you're having sex. That's on you. And it's I'm not saying that that's what men have to do. What I'm saying is it's bullshit to say that we're the gatekeepers.
Yeah,
there are plenty of women who want to start families. So just choose wisely. Don't you wear condoms, don't, and even then accidents are going to happen, so you know the risks. You go into it, you make the decisions for your belief set that you are going to be comfortable with, but don't expect me to accommodate what you're uncomfortable with my body and my life. Does that make sense? Women, I don't agree that women are the gatekeepers. I
guess the manosphere men will argue that we are the gatekeepers because we're only choosing all of the sexy chads to reproduce with.
Why don't you go and ask some midwives, because I'm sure they would disagree.
Why? What would they say?
I don't know, but there's all manner of people reproducing, isn't there?
Yes.
It's certainly not all sexy.
Everyone would just be fucking stunning then, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, I have to go.
Okay.
So I gotta log off. We didn't discuss Boris.
We could do that next time.
And that was very serious. Was it funny enough?
It was a bit serious. Well, it was a lot more serious than the other ones, I think. But it's fine.
It's not necessarily a comedy podcast, is it? It's just us three chatting.
Yeah, I know, but
it is a serious issue.
It is a serious issue. You know, Jenny made me laugh the other day. Yeah, it's horrific. Yeah,
it's absolutely awful. I'm so I'm so angry.
I'm angry. I'm really
so
angry
that this has happened. How
Yeah.
dare they?
How dare they?
The contempt for women in this fucking world is horrendous. Did you see that earthquake in Afghanistan? Huge earthquake in Afghanistan. Absolutely devastating, awful. So many people died, and in like really remote parts. It's hard to get to a doctor, get doctors there, and there were husbands who weren't letting their wives be treated by male doctors.
Oh, because you're just not meant to see a man without your husband there.
Yeah. So you would rather potentially lose your wife than have them be treated by a man.
Oh, wow. Don't even. I've had a case recently, and obviously I can't go into the ins and outs of it, but honor-based violence, it can be absolutely despicable. Like, I would rather you die than besmirch my honor.
Yeah, we'll talk about Boris next time. There's probably going to be more news around the whole Boris thing by next time anyway. So,
and there's a lot of funny things to say about that. Absolute mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad that we chat about it. Anyway, piss off.